You finish dinner. The day begins to slow down. Your body feels heavier, calmer, almost ready to rest. The urgency of the day fades, and everything starts moving in a quieter rhythm. And then, you decide to walk. Not far, not fast. Just 20 minutes. It feels simple, almost too simple to matter. No sweat, no intensity, no sense of effort. Just a quiet walk after your last meal of the day. But inside your body, this moment is not quiet at all. Because right after dinner, your system is entering one of the most important transitions it goes through every day. A shift from activity to recovery, from intake to processing, from movement to rest. And in that transition, your body is making a decision, not consciously, but biologically. What should we do with this energy? Store it or use it? Because dinner is not just another meal. It's the final signal your body receives before a long period without food. The beginning of an overnight fast. And what your body decides to do in this moment doesn't just affect the next hour. It affects the next 6, 8, even 10 hours. While you sleep. Because your body doesn't stop working when you go to bed. It continues processing. It continues deciding. It continues managing energy. And the direction it takes depends on the signal you send right after dinner. Now most people finish eating and sit. They relax. They stop moving. And in doing that, they allow their body to remain in storage mode because nothing is asking it to do anything different. But when you walk, even for just 20 minutes, you introduce a new signal, a signal that says, energy is needed right now. And your body has to respond, not later, not overnight, but immediately. And that response begins to change something, not dramatically, not instantly, but subtly. Because your body is still processing the meal, insulin is rising. Glucose is entering your bloodstream. Your system is managing incoming fuel. So at first, your walk doesn't trigger fat burning. It triggers usage. It tells your body, use what we just consumed. And that alone is already different from doing nothing. Because now, instead of storing everything, your body is clearing it, using it, reducing what remains. But here's where it becomes interesting. Because as those 20 minutes continue, your internal state begins to shift. Glucose starts to drop. Insulin begins to decline. Your system moves slowly away from storage toward something else. And that something else is where fat burning begins. Not during the first step, not at the beginning of the walk, but later, after the initial phase has passed. And this is why those 20 minutes matter. Because they don't just burn energy, they change what your body does next. They move your system forward, faster than it would on its own. They shorten the time your body stays in storage mode, and they bring you closer to the point where fat becomes necessary. Because fat burning doesn't happen randomly. It happens when your body runs out of easy options, and the faster you reach that point, the sooner your system begins to shift. So what feels like a simple walk is actually a transition. A bridge between two states, between storing energy and using it. And once your body begins crossing that bridge, it doesn't just stop when your walk ends. It continues into the night, into sleep, into the hours where your body decides what to do with everything you've eaten. And that's why this moment, right after dinner, matters more than it seems, because it doesn't just affect your evening. It shapes your entire night. Most people believe that walking after dinner is already enough, that once you move a little, you've done your part. You've eaten, you've walked, you've burned something. So it must be working. And because it feels simple, it feels correct. But your body doesn't respond to effort in that way. It doesn't reward movement just because you moved. It responds to the state it is in when that movement happens. And right after dinner, Your body is in a very specific state, a state that is not designed for fat burning. It's designed for control. Because the moment you eat, your bloodstream fills with glucose, your digestive system activates, and your hormones respond immediately. The most important of those hormones is insulin. Insulin rises quickly after dinner, not slowly, not gradually, immediately, because your body needs to manage what you just consumed. It needs to move glucose out of your bloodstream, into your cells. It needs to stabilize your system. And to do that, it sends a clear signal. Use incoming energy. Store what is extra. Do not access reserves. And that last part is where fat burning stops. Because when insulin is elevated, fat cells close. They hold on to energy. They do not release it. Because your body doesn't need them. It already has fuel available. So when you walk after dinner, even if it feels like you're doing something that should burn fat, your body is not using fat. It's using glucose, the food you just ate. And this is where most people get misled. Because they feel active, they feel productive, but internally, nothing has changed yet. The system is still the same, still in storage mode, still prioritizing sugar, still ignoring fat. And this is why many people say, I walk after dinner, but I still gain weight. Because the timing alone is not enough. The duration is what determines whether anything changes. Because your body does not switch instantly. It does not go from storage mode to fat-burning mode in a few minutes. It transitions, slowly, gradually. And that transition requires something most people don't give it. Time. Because in the first few minutes of walking after dinner, everything is still the same. Insulin is high. Glucose is abundant. Your body is still processing the meal. There is no pressure, no need to adapt, no reason to switch. So your body continues exactly as expected, using what is easiest, using what is available, ignoring what is stored. And if you stop too early, that's where the process ends. No transition, no shift, no change, just the same system, continuing. And that's the mistake. Because fat burning doesn't begin when you start walking. It begins when your body no longer has easy access to fuel. And that only happens if you stay long enough for your internal state to change. Inside your body, there is a system that decides everything. Not based on what you want, but based on what is available and what is required. And that system controls whether fat burning happens or not. Because fat burning is not automatic. It is regulated, carefully controlled by signals that determine when fat cells should release energy. And right after dinner, the dominant signal is insulin. When you eat, insulin rises quickly. It tells your body, energy is coming in, use this first. And that message does two things at the same time. It directs glucose into your cells, and it prevents fat from being released. Because your body always prioritizes what is easiest. And after dinner, the easiest fuel is the food you just consumed. So fat cells remain inactive, closed, protected. Because they are not needed, and your body will never use what it does not need. Now this is where time begins to change everything. Because insulin does not stay high forever. As your body processes the meal, glucose is used, blood sugar begins to drop, and slowly, insulin begins to decline. Not immediately, not in the first few minutes, but gradually. And as insulin declines, the signal begins to change. Your body starts moving away from storage toward usage, because now the question is different. At the beginning, your body asks, how do we manage incoming energy? But later, it starts asking, what do we use next? And that question is what opens the door to fat burning. Because fat cells respond to that shift. Not to movement alone, but to the change in signals. And this is where your 20-minute walk becomes important. Because movement creates demand. and demand accelerates the process. It forces your body to use glucose faster. It pushes your system toward that transition sooner. And as that happens, fat cells begin to receive a different signal. Not stay closed, but prepare. They become more responsive, more sensitive, more ready to release energy. Not fully yet, but enough to begin changing behavior. And this is the hidden system most people never notice. Because it doesn't happen instantly. It happens quietly, under the surface, as your body moves from one state to another. And if you stop too early, that transition never completes. Your body stays in the same mode, the same pattern, the same reliance on sugar. But if you continue long enough, you allow that shift to unfold. You allow insulin to drop. You allow your system to change. And once that change begins, fat burning becomes possible. Not because of the walk itself, but because of what the walk allows your body to reach. A different state, a different signal, a different system. And that is what determines the result. Walking 20 minutes after dinner is not just a habit. It's a timing decision. And timing determines how your body interprets everything you do. Because your body does not respond to movement alone. It responds to movement within a specific internal state. And right after dinner, that state is very different from the rest of your day. Your body is transitioning from activity to rest, from intake to processing, from movement to recovery. Your hormones are shifting. Insulin is elevated. Cortisol is naturally dropping. Your system is preparing for sleep. And this combination creates a very specific environment. An environment where your body is deciding what to do with energy. Store it or use it. Now when you sit after dinner, there is no demand, no signal, no reason for your body to do anything different. So it continues in storage mode. It processes food. It stores excess energy. It prepares for the night. But when you walk, even gently, you introduce a signal into that system. A signal that says, energy is needed right now. And your body has to respond. Not aggressively, not urgently, but immediately. And this response changes how your system behaves. Because now, instead of simply processing food, your body must also supply energy. And that creates a different kind of balance. At the beginning of your walk, your body uses glucose. That's expected, because it is available, because insulin is still present, because it is the easiest option. So those first minutes help clear blood sugar. They stabilize your system. They reduce the amount of energy that would otherwise be stored. And this alone is already powerful, because you are changing the outcome of your meal. But as you continue walking, the timing begins to matter more. Because your body is not static. It is changing minute by minute. Glucose is being used. Insulin is beginning to decline. Your system is slowly moving away from storage mode. And because you are still walking, the demand continues. And that demand accelerates the shift. It pushes your body forward faster than it would on its own. So instead of slowly transitioning over hours, your system begins transitioning during those 20 minutes. And that is the key. Because you are not just moving. You are changing when your body changes. You are shifting the timing of your metabolism. And when that timing shifts, everything that follows is different. Because your body does not reset when you stop walking. It continues from where it is. So if you end your walk closer to fat-burning mode, that is the state your body carries into the night, into rest, into sleep. And that is where the real effect happens. Not during the walk, but after it. Because what your body does overnight depends on the state you leave it in. And those 20 minutes determine that state. Your body does not switch into fat burning the moment you start walking. It moves toward it. Step by step, signal by signal. Because your system is designed to avoid unnecessary change. As long as glucose is available, as long as insulin is still active, as long as energy demand is easily satisfied, your body stays where it is, in storage mode, in sugar mode, in the same pattern it entered after dinner. And during the first minutes of your walk, everything is still comfortable. Your bloodstream still carries glucose. Your cells are still receiving energy. Your system is still regulated by insulin. There is no pressure, no urgency, no reason to switch. So your body continues exactly as expected, using what is easiest, using what is already available, ignoring what is stored. But as you continue walking, something begins to change. Not because you are moving harder, but because time is passing, and time changes the environment. Minute by minute, glucose begins to decline. Your muscles continue demanding energy. Your system keeps supplying it. And slowly, the balance begins to shift. Because now, the supply is no longer as abundant as it was. Not gone, but reduced. And your body senses that. It begins to feel a subtle pressure, a quiet signal that says, this may not be enough if it continues. And that is the beginning of the threshold. Not a sharp moment, not something you can feel directly, but a transition, a point where your body begins to prepare for something else. Because your system is always thinking ahead, always anticipating what comes next. So as you approach the later minutes of your walk, your body starts adjusting. It begins opening pathways that were previously inactive. It begins sending signals to fat cells, not fully activating them yet, but preparing them. And this is where most people never arrive, because they stop too early. They finish dinner, they walk a few minutes, and then they stop. Right before the threshold, right before the moment where the system begins to change. So their body never completes the transition. It starts, but never finishes. It prepares, but never switches. And every time that happens, your body learns something. That glucose is always enough, that fat is not required, that there is no reason to adapt. And over time, that becomes your default. A system that avoids fat. Not because it cannot use it, but because it has never needed to. But when you continue, when you allow those 20 minutes to unfold fully, you move closer to that threshold. You give your body time to feel the change, time to recognize that something is different. And once that recognition happens, your system begins to shift. Because now, glucose alone is no longer enough, and your body must prepare for another source. And that is where fat begins to enter the process. Not instantly, not fully, but inevitably. Because your body has reached the point where it has no other choice. And that is the difference between movement and transformation. Not what you do, but how long you stay, until your body is forced to change. And then, the switch begins. Not as a sudden event, not as something you can feel immediately, but as a gradual change your body can no longer avoid. Because once you move close enough to that threshold, your system is no longer fully supported by glucose. It has to adapt. It has to find another source. And that's when your body begins to shift, from using only sugar to starting to use fat. Fat cells that were previously inactive now receive a different signal. Release energy. And this time, they respond. They begin breaking down stored fat into fatty acids. Those fatty acids enter your bloodstream. They travel to your muscles, and inside your cells, your mitochondria begin using them. Not completely, not at full capacity, but enough to support the continued demand. And this is the moment where fat burning actually begins. Not at the start of your walk, not in the first few minutes, but later. After your body has moved beyond its initial state. And this is why those 20 minutes matter. Because they are long enough to bring your body close to that shift. Close enough to begin changing what fuel your body uses. But here's what makes this even more important. Because the switch does not stop when your walk ends. Your body does not reset. It continues from where it is. So if your system has already begun shifting toward fat, that is the state it carries forward. Into the evening, into rest, into sleep. And during those hours, your body continues working, processing, using energy. And now, because of that shift, it is more likely to use fat instead of storing it. And that is where the real effect happens. Not during the walk itself, but after it. Because your body spends hours in that state. Hours where fat can be used. Hours where storage is reduced. Hours where your system operates differently. And over time, this creates adaptation. Because your body learns from repetition. Each time you walk after dinner and allow that shift to begin, you reinforce the pattern. You teach your system, this is what we do now, and gradually, your body becomes better at it, faster at switching, more efficient at using fat, less dependent on sugar, and this is what most people never reach, because they never stay consistent. They walk once and then stop, then repeat randomly, and their body never learns. But when you repeat this daily, the system changes, the switch happens earlier, the response becomes stronger, and fat burning becomes easier. Not because you are doing more, but because your body is working differently. Because once your system learns how to switch, it no longer resists it. It expects it. It prepares for it. And that changes everything. Because fat loss is not about forcing your body. It is about training your body. And those 20 minutes after dinner become the signal, the instruction, the pattern your body follows. Over time, this does not stay a small effect. It becomes a pattern. And your body always follows patterns because your system is not reacting to one single evening. It is adapting to what you repeat. So when you finish dinner and immediately sit, night after night, you teach your body something. You teach it that there is no demand after eating, that energy is always stored, that there is no reason to use what comes in. So your body becomes more efficient at storing, more efficient at holding on to fat, more efficient at staying in that same pattern. And over time, that becomes your default. A system that expects storage at night, that prepares for it, that reinforces it. But when you change that pattern, even with something simple, everything begins to shift. Because when you walk after dinner and repeat it consistently, your body starts anticipating it. It begins preparing differently. Before you even start walking, your system is already adjusting. Insulin begins to decline faster. Glucose is processed more efficiently. Fat cells become more responsive earlier. Because your body expects demand. It expects that energy will be needed. And anticipation changes everything. Because your system is no longer reacting. It is preparing. And preparation makes the process faster, smoother, more efficient. So what once took longer to reach, now happens earlier. Because your body has learned the pattern. It knows what is coming. And it adjusts in advance. And this is where the real results begin to appear. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but consistently. Your energy at night becomes more stable. You don't feel heavy after dinner. You don't feel the same sluggishness. Because your body is using energy, not storing all of it. Your sleep begins to improve. Because your system is more balanced, less overloaded, less focused on storage, more focused on regulation. And over time, your fat cells begin to behave differently. They become more willing to release energy, less resistant, less protected. Because the environment has changed. Because your body no longer treats nighttime as storage only. It treats it as a continuation of usage. And that shift is what leads to fat loss. Not immediately, but gradually, consistently. Because now your body is working with you, not against you, and this is what most people miss. They focus on effort, on intensity, on doing more. But the real change comes from timing, from what you do in small moments, repeated every day. Because those moments shape the system, and once the system changes, the results follow. Now here's the simplest way to apply this. After dinner, don't sit immediately. Walk for 20 minutes. Stay relaxed. Stay consistent. That's it. Because the power is not in doing more. It's in doing the right thing at the right time. And night is one of the most powerful times. Because what your body does overnight is influenced by what you do before it. So the next time you finish dinner, don't end your day there. Because those 20 minutes are not just movement. They are instruction. They are the signal that tells your body what to do for the next several hours. And if you want to take this even further, if you want to combine this with morning timing strategies to create a full-day fat-burning system, make sure to subscribe. Because in the next video, we'll connect morning and night into one complete metabolic cycle.